Welcome, Fibre friends.
I made a set by Jessie May. Tanking shorts by Jessie May. How can she ride cool patterns like that? What are we saying? What are we saying? Booty. Fit. Check. Well, hello there. I'm just a very calm and well-adjusted person who would like to invite you into their little Fibre world for another round of Frog. What is the name of my podcast? Frankenfrog Fibre podcast. Welcome back. You're here. I don't know why, but I'm happy. My name is Janine. I live in Toronto. I have 2 children, and I just finished teaching high school in the internet for a whole year, and I taught drama and music theater, and I'm pretty happy it's over. I also got my second shot. Hurrah! So I am feeling very good about life right now. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can click things like subscribe. You can like it. I think there's something, you can turn on notifications too, and you can see when I do more of these. And I would love to have you along for the ride if you want to join me. I interview dyers and owners of yarn stores in Toronto, and my aim is to connect all of us fiber enthusiasts through the YouTube as much as possible, especially while we're a little isolated. Well, hopefully we're coming out of the tail end of that. Really excited that might be the case. All right. I did not write everything down today because it took me from 9 a.m. until now to edit the 2 interviews that I am including in this week's episode. So you'll have to bear with me. I'm just gonna grab things and show you as we go. I'm first gonna throw up a few pictures and little tidbits about my outline tank, which I'm wearing right now, and my So Summer shorts. They're a little wrinkled right now, but you get the gist. Both of these patterns are by Jessie May, and you can get her patterns on PayHip as well as Ravelry, which I think is really great to make it more accessible for everybody. And like I said in my song, Jessie May, aside from being probably the most attractive person on the internet, is amazing at writing patterns and just has kind of lit a fire under the entire fiber community, I think, in a way, just because her patterns are so exciting. And when a new one is released, I really think it generates buzz. And she always shares beautiful photos of a diverse group of people who have tested her patterns. Basically, Jessie May, please be my friend. And that would be great. Thank you, check mark. Okay, great. The outline tank is a pattern that I already kind of I made and I talked about already. I really loved making it the first time, so I made it again. And it's basically you knit the ribbing in the hem, and then you just knit and stockinette, and then there's you knit flat up here to create this section. And then when you get to the top, it's fun times. And I think I already talked about how much of a party it is to drop these stitches. So I enjoyed that party again. And I might even put a little clip up here of what it looks like to drop the stitches. And then the shorts, the So Summer shorts, you start with the waistband. Let's show you that again. With this drawstring. So you make the drawstring first, and then you knit the waistband around the drawstring. It's really, really simple, super well written. And then, yeah, it's just some excellent increases. Well, I already talked about these shorts, actually, I just realized. But basically, here's what happened. I made the shorts again. I completely frogged them. I had made the large. First, I had made the large. And then secondly, I had made them incorrectly. I read one instruction wrong where you were supposed to keep going around the entire circumference of the leg with the short rows, but I thought the short rows were only at the back so that it would kind of like go down further and cover your posterior section. But that was silly because the shape of the shorts, when you look at them, you can see on the side, like it goes down in the front and the back. So basically, first of all, I finished the large and they were too big, but I would caution anyone who is working with these natural kind of fibers just to remember how much drape you're gonna get, because I'm gonna show you something real. I don't know if you're ready for this reality, but let me just move my chair here for a second, but just like, there's like a little bit of butt droop happening. Like, just a little bit of like anal droopage. Is that what we should call it? And these looked like the rise was gonna be so short. So just when you're making them, the second time I made the medium size of the shorts, I actually left out, I think it was one set of increases. And they're really perfect now. When I wash them again, they'll like into their shape, and I really love them. So I will show you a few things that I got. I had a birthday recently and I haven't seen you since. I turned 43. I am old. And I got some awesome things for my birthday, yarny things. So first, I'll show you the least exciting thing first, even though, it's pretty exciting. So to finish my shawl that I just started, I picked up these 3 Mohair beauties. You can see them there from Spin Me a Yarn. And the thing about the shawl that I'm making is that it's kind of like mohair, it's held together, mohair held together, sorry, what am I saying? With another single yarn, and my single yarn is like white with blue bits in it. So basically if you mix any of these with it, it kind of just looks good, and you can go a little willy-nilly, but I am following what it tells me to do in the section. So I got those to continue that. I got sock blockers for giants. These are actually for me because, yeah, my feet are women's size 11. Like, sorry to me for ever trying to buy roller skates or the shoe that I want. I basically just like walk into shoe stores and I'm like, what do you have in size 11? They bring out the one pair and I buy them. That's how shoe buying is. So aside from that, oh, and that was also from Spin Me a Yarn too, those sock blockers. I'm pretty excited about those. So this is something really cool that I got from Spin Me a Yarn. You can see some really nice woodwork on there, but what this is to help you make the right size of socks. So somebody can actually put their heel in line with this, and standing on it, wherever their toe goes, it tells you in inches how long to knit the foot. And it says his, hers, big kids, little kids, babies. And I'm super excited about that because it is my goal to become more of a sock knitter. I've kind of shunned them in the past because I do them 2 at a time and it just seems like a marathon. The last thing I got was this project bag, and I got it at Spin Me a Yarn once again, and the brand name is Tracker. And why this type of project bag is so fantastic is that it's made of nylon, completely nylon, okay? So you can see it's got 0 bells and whistles. It's very cost efficient. I think it only cost like 20 something or maybe 30. But basically your yarn turns in here, and I'm not a center pull type of person. So I love this bag. I use it for everything. I have the Batignolles sweater that I'm working on. I'm getting there in it right now. Yeah, so that's the stuff I got for my birthday from Spin Me a Yarn. the sock blockers, the mohair, and all that good stuff with that gift certificate that my husband got to spin me a yarn. And then I also had been waiting until my, stash got a little bit lower to get some Emily C. Gillies for the first time. And so I went ahead and I ordered 4 skeins during one of Emily's shop updates recently. And so you can see just the fantastic color in this mohair. I'll turn it around so you can see it. This one's called Dream Team. And this yellow is called Obnoxious Boss. Look at the tonality in that. It is spectacular. So I'm going to be making an as if tee with these 2 colors, and I'll slap that up on the screen so you can see what that looks like. But it is an absolutely adorable top that I remember was quite popular a few years back, but I feel like people have forgotten that it exists. But it's such a great tee to show off a whole swath of mohair up here, and then the mohair mixed with I think that mohair mixed with that yellow is going to be super interesting. So I'm excited about that. Next, I ordered some yarn from France. I finally ordered this Miyazaki yarn that I had been drooling over for like a year and a half, however long, La Bien Aimee, however long ago Aimee put this out, and it came and I died. So let me show you this. So this is Howl and Sophie on merino singles. Let's just take a moment. Okay. Let's hold up some little friends together and take a look at them. There's some serious gorgeousness there. And it's just fantastic when you open up a package of yarn that you've been dreaming of for a while, and it turns out to be every bit as gorgeous as you were hoping. So I am super over the moon about this and how it turned out. And you do need to alternate skeins if you're going to make kind of anything bigger out of this. And I definitely will be making something that really shows off this yarn. Probably maybe one of the Jessie May sweaters, or maybe even the Ursina by Jacqueline Cieslak. That would be pretty beautiful. But just something that's really simple that can show off the yarn. So very excited about that. Okay, and I can show you, now that I've shown you my finished objects, I showed you my new acquisitions. Now I will show you my whips. My whips are a little bit of an embarrassing situation right now. So I started working on Stars in Your Hands, Stars in Your Hands by Inez Sang. And okay, it's not very far, but I think that it's pretty beautiful so far. It's really nice when there's like a light going through it, which you can't really see here, but basically it's happening. It started. And I'm really excited for when the white mohair comes in, because my yarn is white. And so I'm really excited for when, it just becomes like that pure kind of white color for a little while. Secondly, I started my socks, from the Loving Path yarn, but you can see I already like frogged what I started. So here's where we're at right now. There's a couple of toes on there in the Pride Mini. And then the unicorn colorway, you can just see it's like, oh wait, let me show you this side. Just the beginning, and I'm doing a 3-in-1 stitch pattern, which you cannot see at all yet. But those are going to be for me. I've only ever made 1 pair of socks for myself, so I'm pretty excited to have a second pair. And then finally, this monster, Just kidding. I love you. I love you, Batignolles sweater. You don't feel bad about yourself. So, I had finished the body last time I saw you, right? Remember that? And now there's a sleeve. Yay! So I got off First Sleeve Island, and I actually brought in, I'm gonna have to like block this for you to see it, but I brought in some of the same color work that happens at the top. See? Isn't that cute? Yeah. And just to kind of like, you know, finish off the sleeve for my friend in kind of a fancy way. And then I'm here on the second polka dot sleeve island. Using the old chiagoos and the magic loop. Oh, and some stitches have slipped off. What do you think you're doing? I don't think so. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that is the Batignolles. It's going to be finished the next time I see you. And that'll be super exciting to block it and, you know, try it on before I give it to its rightful owner, my friend. And I think that that's all that I have to show you. It was exciting times in acquisition land for me, for sure. Yeah, also free Britney. Am I right? I'm right. Okay. So first I have an interview with Kristen from the Knit Cafe. And let me tell you about the Knit Cafe and me. It was the place that I learned to knit. I remember the first time I went there, I sat down and this lovely woman named Beryl was sitting there, and, you know, she chatted to me a little bit about, you know, the fiber arts and what she was making, and I was so in. I just remember there was a lot of passion in that conversation, and yeah, so from then on, the Knit Cafe has really been a home base in a way for me, and both my babies have slept at the Knit Cafe. Holden less so because he was like born just before the pandemic. One of the owners, Ivana, has held both of my babies and they both sat on like in the Knit Cafe, and they've sat on the table. I used to bring Evelyn and she would sleep during the knit night. That happened for like once. But yeah, really near and dear to my heart, and I hope you really enjoy this interview. And I think we're live. Yay! Okay, I am here with Kristen from the Knit Cafe. Woo! Welcome. I'm so happy that we finally get to speak. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, too long. It's been too long not seeing anybody.
But you know, the Knit Cafe being one of my Fibre mainstays prior to this closure, I really like miss the connection between you and Ivana, another one of the great owners of the Knit Cafe. So the Knit Cafe has been a Toronto Fibre staple for quite a while. Can you tell us a little bit about its inception and then its journey to your beautiful Roncesvalles store that you're in now?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we've been around for 18 plus years, I think, a long time. So you can imagine, like, when we opened, it's a totally different landscape than what it is now. Like, Ravelry was just a glimmer in somebody's eye, like it wasn't on the scene yet. And like Romney was the Toronto knitting store, that was the store. And there was probably a few other little places scattered around, like very far away. And that was kind of Let Us Knit. If you remember that place, they started around the same time that we did. And that's become other things over the years. How did we start? Well, I was living with a group of people in Parkdale, and we were all hardcore knitters. And we used to have a knitting group that would come over once a week. And the group got really big and we didn't have like email lists or anything like that. So if we wanted to cancel for any reason, we just couldn't. And people would just show up at the door. We're like, we're sick, you can't come in. Anyway, but so we got this idea that this would be something that would be a good thing to start in Toronto, because there's obviously a lot of people who are into knitting and wanted a place to hang out and do their knitting and, you know, share. So that was the inception. And then also another one of the people who started the Knit Cafe, Kate Austin and I, we had a textile business. We did hand printed textiles. We were in a show in New York for that, and we went to a place there called that place that was also a knit cafe, and it was in the middle of a rainstorm, and like the whole world was in this store. Like the windows were steamed up. It was full of people. People were speaking Russian. There was a TV crew there. It was like amazing. And we thought, if this works here and we have all these people coming to our house every week, then maybe we should do something in Toronto. And that's kind of the inception of it. And then we found a place right away on Queen Street, just sort of happened, and it was perfect. And we just kind of seat of our pants, just like not really what the heck we were doing. We just kind of started. And from the get-go, it was great. Like we had almost an instant community, which is wonderful. We had like the weekly S&B, and we had great customers. And the thing that really worked about it is it was a great place for people to come and ask questions and learn, and like when they drop a stitch to like run in and go like, fix this, and like have somebody do that. Because when you try to learn something, especially something like knitting in a vacuum, like it's really hard to progress past your first scarf. So we kind of wanted to be that place where people could go and be inspired and ask questions. And that's sort of been our ethos from the beginning. Besides, also our other main sort of mandate is to try to have yarns that are natural fibers, and that we feel really good about talking about and about showing people. So that's kind of our inception story. And Ivana, we hired her right away. She wasn't one of the original partners.
Okay.
She was working for Kate and I with our textile business, and we knew that she was an amazing knitter, and so we hired her right away. And then a few years later, she agreed to be a partner, and that was like the best day ever, because we wouldn't want her to lose her, because she's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, I love Ivana. I love you. I love the community that's always been created. And from my beginning at the Knit Cafe, I started as a crocheter, and I think I dropped in, and it wasn't even the S&B time. It was just store hours, and I sat down because there was a table for sitting. Had a little tea, had a little snack there from the food and drink that you had there at the time. And I felt that instant want to help from others.
Yeah, like definitely. Our old shop on Queen Street had the actual cafe, which is where we got our name. Like we had like the fancy coffee maker, and we had snacks. We did brunches and stuff there for a while too. We got pretty fancy, but it was hard to maintain both things at once. And then when we had to move, we had to drop the cafe part because we just couldn't find a space that was suitable, that we could afford, quite frankly, that we could bring the cafe in. So that's too bad, because the cafe was really good for having that sort of thing happen. But I hope that still people feel comfortable coming in and, hanging out and asking us stuff. And but it is really good being able to like come and ask the person that happens to be sitting there, like, what are you making? How do you do it? Yeah. I remember that you coming in when you first started coming in, and you had like all the questions. You're a very good question asker. Not everybody is like comfortable doing that, but you progressed like so fast. It was like, I don't know how to knit, and then all of a sudden, like you're making everything.
Yeah, I think I took the learn to knit class where with you with the baby blanket. Then I took a hat class also with you, and then the next class I took was a sock class with Robbie. And that's
not just the regular sock class, that's the sock master class that you would have so it was with Robbie. So from 0 to 80 basically what you did.
Yeah, so I'm really excited now that it's in Roncy because there are like a few nice little food and drink places nearby. So it still kind of has that vibe where you can grab your tea next door and then come in for a little bit of knitting or crocheting or, you know, stabbing fiber, whatever you feel like doing that day.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Brooklyn Tweed because the Knit Cafe is the flagship store in Toronto for Brooklyn Tweed. You carry pretty much, don't even hold that up. It's going to excite people. No. But I'm a huge fan of their yarn. I know you are as well. And I know that there were it was kind of like a little bit of a journey to get to having Brooklyn Tweed in your store.
Totally. So, I just, first of all, the thing that I first saw about Brooklyn Tweed was their patterns, right? Because they really excel in their pattern making. So that really jumped out. And then you got to see like them develop their yarns, because that sort of happens slowly. And so right from the get-go, I kind of started contacting them and saying like, how do I get your yarn? And that people probably have the impression that when you own a business, or maybe just a yarn store, maybe it's different for other businesses, but for yarn stores, just because you like something doesn't necessarily mean that you can carry it. There's lots of things that over the years where I've asked people, oh, I want to make an order. And they're like, no, can't do that. So Brooklyn Tweed was one of them for a really long time. I think every year for maybe about 6 or 7 years, I sent them an email saying, how about now? Is now okay? But they always sent me back emails that were so nice, like the nicest emails saying like, no, can't do it now, but thank you. And we're going to be contacting you and you're on our list. And anyway, and then eventually one day they did. They were totally true to their word. They contacted me and we were the second place in Canada to get their yarn. So it was really exciting. And then I remember when the first order came in, it was like 3 or 4 huge boxes. It was seriously better than Christmas. I mean, most times when you get boxes of yarn, it's pretty amazing. It doesn't get old. But when it's something like that, you've been waiting for like practically a decade for, it's pretty great. And to be able to like see it in the flesh. I mean, I had seen it in other yarn stores in the States, but to see it en masse in the flesh was really great and super inspiring. Yeah, so we at that time they had just the shelter and the loft lines, which I will show you. If you wonder how well you can see these. Oh, there's my phone.
Yeah, shelter and loft. I love both of those yarns.
Have you made stuff out of both?
I've never used. Oh yes, I fully have.
I know you've made the loft because you made that great stripy guy.
Yeah.
And did you make out of the shelter?
So there is a child's pattern that I call a classy Christmas sweater that's called Oh Christmas Tree.
Oh.
Yes. And you know, one of your regulars, Ellen, turned me on to this pattern. And so I got the colors up there. I actually have like a little tidbit left of it, but it's a beautiful kind of almost forest green, but a little bit between Kelly and forest green. That's the color that I use of the shelter. And then it's, you know, it's totally plain stockinette, and except for some ribbing, and then like just the outline of such a classy Christmas tree in the middle, you know.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, and then yes, I love that Benton sweater. It's like an oversized boyfriend fit sweater. And it's true what you say about Brooklyn Tweed patterns. They are impeccable.
Yeah, they're really stylish, but they're also super classic. So you feel like you can probably wear that sweater for the rest of your life. So, you know, that's awesome. The first 2 yarns are like woolen spun yarn. Have you was that your first experience using woolen spun yarn?
It was. Yeah,
it's really different, eh? Because it's like, it's like there's clouds in your yarn. It's like super, like loft is like a word that knitters use all the time, but I think that it really describes, like, that's why they probably called it loft. You know, like it's like it's got like it's super puffy. So each stitch kind of like blooms out in a really beautiful way because the fibers don't line up in kind of like a straight form way. They kind of are like mismatch. So they puff up, which makes them extra insulating and gives it a really cool texture. It's like somewhere between textural and smooth, if you know what I mean.
Yes. And I love them for color work.
Yeah. Super dreamy for that. Yeah. And it's so interesting. Like if you use the loft through the shelter, like those are tweeds too. So if you're using it for color work, then you're getting like color within the color, like so much depth, right?
Yes.
Super cool. Yeah.
And I used the arbor, which I don't know if you have a skein of it there.
Yeah. Arbor. So yeah, arbor is like not woolen spun, it's worsted spun. So most people have used that kind of yarn. It's where the fibers are sort of lined up. So, and it's got like, this one is applied yarn and it's got twist to it. So it's quite bouncy, eh? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's got super duper stitch definition. This, it's probably not showing very well. This is done with it.
It's
so
beautiful.
you can see, yeah, it really, because of the twist in it, it's got really good stitch definition. Yeah. What did you make with it?
I made the Mini-Unbearable sweater, which, you know, it's the Les Garçons pattern, and it's got bears all across the bottom and flowers on it. So I made that for Holden. It worked so well.
I did a little fair isle out of it too, and the fair isle was really good. Because that stitch definition, it's like every color is like seems to be like more saturated because it really stands out from the next because of the twist in it. That's what I found anyway. Did you find the same? Yeah,
I did, and I loved it too because you know, it's still got that woolly feel to it, which I think if you come to appreciate those yarns, you just love them, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Brooklyn tweed is not for everybody because of that. Like, it's definitely, I'm not going to say like traditional because it's definitely got its own vibe that I think is kind of contemporary, but it's not like if you only want to use merino, then it's not going to be your jam, except for this one, which is Peary, which is actually made out of merino. So it's also kind of like a bouncy, like tightly spun yarn that's gonna be great stitch definition, but it is a merino, but it's not superwash. So it's not like, not to disparage superwash at all, but it doesn't have that kind of like filmy kind of feel that superwash sometimes has, where it feels like it's extra slidey. You know, it's definitely a stickier yarn, which is good if you want things to hold their shape. Like that's the benefit to that. Yeah.
I totally think superwash has its beautiful place in anything where you don't mind if it's a little drapey, you know, if you're but if you're wanting it to have that loft, as you said, the non-superwash yarns really win in that category, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like if I'm making a garment for myself, I definitely at this point I would not pick a superwash because I feel that like I hand wash all my things anyway if they're garments that I made. But yeah, if I want the shape, like I'm making it and I want the shape to stay where it is. I don't want to end up like having like an extra long sleeve or, you know, whatever. Yeah.
Yes, and you've got no one throwing your hand knit natural fibers in the dryer, so that's nice.
No.
You know, the laundry helpers in your house, they're so helpful. But that aside, you know, I think we're almost at the point where there's like a touch factor. You know, I'll say, let's touch this one. Does this one go in the dryer? No.
Oh, nice. It's a good lesson.
Yes, that's how you know. So are there any more Brooklyn tweed types of yarn that are coming on the horizon or that you have in the store?
Well, actually, here I've got this whole bag of yarn. This here. So this is Dapple. I brought out the whole bag. I don't think you can really see because Dapple's really interesting in that in this bag of yarn, which is one batch, there's different colors. because it's a blend of cotton, organic cotton, and merino wool. So it's super soft, super soft. It's also woolen spun, so it's like fluffy. But because the dye takes differently on the merino fibers and the cotton fibers, it basically doesn't stick as well to the cotton fibers. Within one batch, you end up with like a range of tones. So in this one bag, like I think this is like the darkest stain. I'll find one that's really light. This one's pretty light. And then this one, that's from the same bag. I don't know.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And some of them are really barber poled. Like you can see both colors in one. See?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can, you can mix them up while you're knitting with them, or you could try to do like an ombre kind of thing. But, and this color is brand new. This is one of their new colors. It's called Black Walnut. Yeah, so that's new for them. They're always coming up with new things. I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to tell people about new things, so I won't. But they are always coming up with new things. And like they just are releasing a pattern collection really soon called the Capsule Collection, which is about basics, which is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they've already announced that, so I'm not spilling any beans on that. But I think it's coming out on June 9th or something. So
okay,
that. Yeah.
Awesome, very exciting. So, anything on the needles or the hook right now?
You know what? I actually have not been knitting very much. I mean, it's terrible to say that. I just finished a whole bunch of punch needle projects. We've kind of like spanned, like we've started getting like into like little bits pieces of other kinds of crafty stuff because I'm, I like textiles. I like all textiles, really. And I just actually put up a window. I would show you, but it's like the back side. And so it doesn't look very good from the back side. But they'll be putting up pictures on Instagram. It's all rainbow themed for Pride Week. Yay. And I'm going to be putting together some rainbow punch needle kits for people for the month. So that's pretty exciting. But I do have thoughts about knitting. I want to start a project soon. So I have like a short list of mostly sweaters. Do you mostly knit sweaters? Is that what you mostly do?
I have been doing a little bit of everything. I've done a couple summer pieces already this summer, but I like to always have a sweater on the go. I have 2 sweaters on the go right now, the Timberline cardigan for my husband. Mm-hmm. And I know because you made a Brooklyn tweed cardigan that was very similar. That's all cabled.
Yeah, I have it here actually.
Oh, let's see.
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And is that shelter?
No, this is quarry. Which I didn't even show you. I forgot to grab a skein of quarry. I could do that.
Yeah, that's great. The super chunky yarn from Brooklyn Tweed is quarry. And oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's bulky. So quarry is like the thickest one. So good for a sweater like that. That's like super big. Yours is made out of shelter. Yeah, the one that you're going to do. Probably.
Yeah. I didn't actually get shelter. I had to use a little bit of a more cost-efficient yarn because I needed 17 balls.
Yeah. No, I mean, I own a yarn store. If I did not, I don't know if I would have been able to buy the yarn for this sweater in quarry. Although, you save up. Also, you're a fast knitter, but I find like if you pick a project that takes a really long time, that is actually a really good way to save on yarn, even if you're splurging on yarn at the same time. Because like if you pick a project that's going to take you like 6 months to do, then you're not going to buy yarn for that 6 months. So even though if you spend $300 on the yarn, I mean, that's pretty good if you're spending all that time on it.
Yeah, I am very actually like that with yarn buying. I don't have a giant stash because I buy something for the thing I'm going to make. And, then I usually finish my yarn. Starting this podcast has influenced that in a bad way. But yeah, exactly. I think like I go back and forth between, you know, sometimes you get yourself a treat of Brooklyn tweed, and sometimes you go for something that's a little bit less expensive, and then back and forth so that then you can have everything you want.
Totally. Totally. I get it. And I mean, it's another thing that I think about when I'm buying for the store. Like, we do carry some expensive yarns. I mean, a lot of that has to do with, like, I am always looking for yarns that are produced sustainably, and that often makes them more expensive, sadly. But I always think about, like, when I was starting out knitting, and even now, like, I wouldn't have a huge budget for yarn, but I would still want to knit, and I'd still want to use nice materials. So I'm always thinking about, like, I always try to have a few things in every category that are less expensive.
Well, yeah, I remember when I was starting off, I would always get like the Cascade from your store because you
that
know,
was one of the very first yarns I started buying too when I started knitting. Yeah, Cascade.
Yeah, and it's a great kind of yarn if you're making little small projects and you're just starting out and you don't want to have all that pressure of, oh, this yarn was really expensive, so I better not make any mistakes. So that's a great aspect of your shop as well, to have that range of products, you know, that are available. So anything else that you're looking forward to making?
Yeah, I made a list. Actually, I also have one of the things on my list is from this version of making. So I got it out so I can see it. Thinking about making this one. You see there. See that one?
Oh, yeah.
It's just a little cardigan. It's like a brioche stitch all the way down. It's got a V-neck. So it's pretty simple. What's it called? It's called the Plover Cardigan. And I know I'm going to butcher her name when I try to say it. Jacqueline Cieslak?
Cieslak, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Jacqueline. But yeah, she makes beautiful, beautiful patterns. Big fan. And they're lovely and simple. I'd also like to do the like lighter weight version of her. I think she's called Ursina, you know, the one that was super popular with the V-neck. I'm so happy she came up with a lighter version of it. I was thinking about hacking it anyway and doing it with a lighter yarn, but now I don't have to. She studied herself because they're so wearable, and I love that kind of crop kind of style. So those are on my list. I also, Rosa Pomar, who does the Retrosaria lines, she has like an awesome bauble sweater. What's it called? It's called Arbusto. It's just like a little like pullover with like baubles like everywhere. And then she has another one called Cavalgante, which is brioche. It's like a pullover brioche, and she's done it like it's basically just plain brioche all the way down, but she's like changed the colorway so that they sort of blend. It has like this beautiful look to it, and I like how the where the sleeves connect to the body. It has this kind of like river look to it because of the way that the brioche kind of like spreads out in different directions. It almost looks random, but in an organized kind of way. So, and that would be like a really fun thing for like, you know, expressing color, because you could like either just do it in two colors, or you could try to mix them up and blend them. But there's always two colors going, so you could really make them like do some interesting things, which you're always doing. You're always doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I like a color adventure.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Yeah. I'm knitting a little something here right now. I'm making an outline tank. It's by Jessie May. And you know what's fun about this? You finish it and then you drop the stitches all the way down. This.
Yeah, cool.
So
frightening at first, but then once you do it, you're like, yes. Fun.
I'm telling you, there ain't no party like a stitch dropping party. Okay? This is it. This is the party of summer 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just want to mention a few of the other yarns that you carry. Lichen and Lace, a beautiful Canadian yarn out of Nova Scotia. Knitting for Olive. Olan. Are there any more that we should mention?
Yeah, we're getting a batch of Woolen really soon. I'm really excited about that. What else do we have? Yeah, Knitting for Olive is one that we've recently started carrying, and I'm really excited about getting more from them because they're a great company, and I love the way that you can combine their different fibers. Like they have like the mohair that goes with the worsted weight, or it goes with the fingering weight, or you can mix it with silk. Like you can like put all the stuff together, and the colors always match up. So that's pretty cool about them. I like that. We started carrying Loopy Mango recently too in the last year. And my favorite one from them is their super fat Mohair Merino, which is, you've probably seen that, right? It's called So Soft. Here, I'll get one.
And while you're hopping up there, I know that you carry Wool in the Gang as well.
Yeah, Wool in the Gang.
Yeah, I'm wearing this top by Wool in the Gang in the Wool in the Gang yarn that you carry.
Is that the Billie Jean?
Yeah, this is Billie Jean yarn, exactly, the denim yarn, and the top's called Tommy Top. And actually, this hat, all the fibers from the Knit Cafe as well.
Oh, nice.
It's from when you had some Hello Stella. I think
right. Yeah, I love her too. Another great Canadian hand dyer. We're so lucky with how many amazing Canadian hand dyers we have. Yeah, and I try to like spread that around, like because we can't carry everything all the time, and I like to showcase different artists. So Lichen and Lace is kind of one we always have. They're sort of like a staple of the store. And then I just try to keep people guessing what I'll get next. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that a yellow Loopy Mango? What was that one you grabbed there?
No, it's pink.
Oh, it's pink? Oh, it's pink. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so fat. Look at that. You see?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very exciting. Yeah. Make your big chunky knits. Oh, I love those little like cropped chunky sweaters out of that stuff. They're so cute. Yeah, so I want to say thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. It's been really fun. Yeah, like it's so nice to have a little chat with you. Yeah.
Yes. And because we're not able to go into these beautiful stores that are, providing us with all our fiber needs during this time, I think this is like a really nice way to connect and see, here's the person when you're calling the store who answers all the calls, like has your orders ready. And, exactly. It's just great to make a connection like this in this time. And hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
Yeah, I hope so. It feels like we're getting closer though, right? It feels like, stuff is happening. Feeling optimistic. I think everybody's feeling that way. Yeah.
100%. I actually got those like little glimmers of, life is going to return soon. I'm able to get my second vaccine, I think at the end of this month. I know. Very exciting.
That is super exciting.
Yay. So we're on the road. We're almost there. Let's go, Ontario. Woo! Anyway, I'll say goodbye because I know you've got orders to pack up, and thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Thank you.
And next up, there's an interview that I did with Emily C. Gillies, and this one is really exciting. If you're really interested in the way colors work together, if you've delved into spinning a little bit, or if you're interested in finding a little bit more out about spinning, I know that I learned a lot, and I think Emily's a really fascinating person in the fiber community just because of her ability to start this whole business up herself during a pandemic and how much thought she puts into everything she does. I hope you enjoy.
And we are live! Woo! Hello. I'm here with Emily C. Gillies, whose fame I first heard of just a few short weeks ago when I interviewed Amelia from Yarns Untangled. And once I saw Emily's yarn, I was forever changed. And so I had to do this interview. So I'm super, super excited to be with you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's get right into it. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. So how did you get into dyeing the beautiful things that you create now?
So dyeing and into the fiber and stuff. So for me, I have always been a maker. So making stuff with my hands has just always kind of been really core to what I do. So in terms of dyeing specifically, my background's actually in studio painting. So I have a fine art degree, and the techniques that I use for mixing dye are quite similar to how I like to mix paint, my kind of preferred palette. And for me, what dyeing really is this deep exploration into color and just into how colors interact with each other, into how they mix together, into all of the theory that goes behind that. It's really this big thing, in this big exploration into color through fiber and through yarn. And for me, that's been at the core of it, is just how that whole kind of world works. And like I said, I've always been a maker. So for me, I think that I've become, especially in the last 2 years, a dyer primarily, who knits and spins and kind of occasionally weaves. So it's just kind of, I do a little bit of everything, but dyeing is definitely what I've become the most passionate about, but also is really what's the core of my own kind of fiber arts practice.
Yes, and the things you make are so incredibly beautiful that I feel like all of that just emanates from you into your yarn. And yeah, I was instantly drawn to it, and I think many others are as well. As soon as I share it on my Instagram, or say if I hold up a skein, I think we're getting like a pretty good idea of your beautiful use of color theory and your art background. So it's very amazing. How do you know when you've landed on the color that needs to be maybe a permanent color in your collection, or something that you want to put up in your store?
Yeah, so one of the things that I try to do, like one of my core goals as a dyer, is to create this kind of palette of curated colorways. So something that what I often describe this as is that I don't really dye yarn for me. I don't dye these colors for me. I kind of view them more as their own little body of work. And what I find really interesting is how they communicate with each other. So everything that's in my core collection, those are colorways that I've put together so that because I've tried to create something where they all interact and coordinate in their own kind of unique way. So you can grab almost anything and pair it with almost anything else, and it should work. That's what I strive for in my core collection. And then when it comes to dyeing other things like the skein of mohair, that's something that's limited. That's something that's something that I've been trying actually to make more space for in my dyeing practice recently within the last few months, is more time for experimentation and more time to work with different fibers, to work with different yarns, to try different techniques. Because for me, most of what I dye is semitonals and semi-solids. And I love semitonals and semi-solids. Like for me, that's what I like to knit with. And that's what I think I think there's something really beautiful about how when you're knitting with a hand-dyed solid, it kind of dances, that color moves, right? It's not this, you don't get the same look as you do with a commercial yarn where it's just, one commercially dyed color. With hand-dyed color, it has this way of kind of moving through your knitted fabric or your crocheted fabric. And so for me, like solids are really what I enjoy doing. And when I'm working on developing colorways, it's all about how do they work with each other. And then sometimes I do other fun things with them as well. But for the most part, that's really like the main thing.
That's awesome. It's such a nice thought to think that when you are creating this stuff, you're just thinking of it being a whole collection that people can like draw from. And also you're trying to put yourself in the minds of others as well and be like, what would they like to put together,
Yeah, for me, a lot of it too is it's not about like, for me, I'm not a particularly big fan of purple. I'm just not.
Emily,
I know. But for me, it's just, I know a lot of people are, but it's just not a color that I tend to gravitate towards. But I was determined in the spring to figure out a purple that worked. And it's just identifying what works and what doesn't work is sometimes a really long process, but there's just a moment where it all kind of clicks together, where something just really works. And the colors that end up in my core collection are ones that have been extensively kind of, I sometimes call it vetting, but it's not really that. It just means that they hang out around my studio for a really long time so that I can watch and look and see what happens before they get released to the public and become repeatable colorways that are available at stores and from me.
And that's one of the things that I love about your colors is that I find that whichever color you have chosen, and I see a little purple peeking out at the bottom of your yarn beside you, and it's deep, it's plummy, it's kind of a special purple. You know what I'm saying?
This one.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I released, which one did I release? This one is called Linger. This is my other purple. It's not really a purple. It is a purple, but it's like not really a purple. This is called Linger. I really actually like this color because it's kind of just, it just does something really interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like the parts of the yarn that are further away from you are a different color than the parts that are when you were holding it up there. Like
yeah, it does have quite a bit of tonality.
Yeah,
and that's for me what hand-dyed yarn does, right? It's just it's got that depth to it that you just don't get anywhere else. It's just a really, yeah.
That's why we just can't stop. You know, we're like the hand-dyed, please. So let's talk spinning. You offer some beautiful wooden spindles in your shop, all different shapes, which I look at them as a person who doesn't spin yet, and I'm like, what are these things? What are some of the special properties of some of these spindles that you carry?
Yeah, so the spindles that I carry, it's something that I've been doing quite recently, and they're all made by Moose Hill Woodworks. So Moose Hill Woodworks is a Canadian company, and it's just small. It's one person who makes these spindles by hand, each one out of select hardwoods that he tries and kinds of find. The way John is the owner's name. And what John tries to do through Moose Hill Woodworks is find these really unique, beautiful pieces of wood that each kind of have their own qualities and their own, you know, intricacies. And he transforms them into these spindles. And so I don't carry a super wide variety, but I do try to have a handful. And they're just, the way that I've decided to showcase them on my website is to list them each individually, because they're all a little different. They all have these really unique characteristics. And so I spend quite a bit of time photographing them all and then listing them on my site so that you can pick exactly what you want, which is something that, especially right now, as someone who learned to spin in the pandemic, it's kind of interesting to buy spinning equipment without seeing it. Like, it's just such a tactile thing. And I know we have this with knitting too, but with knitting, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of what I want in a yarn, but with spinning, I have no idea, or I had no idea. I have a better idea now since I've been doing it for a while. But when I started learning how to spin, it was just, you know, you don't know what you're getting. It can be hard to figure that out. And so I've tried to mitigate that as much as I can online.
Yeah, it's great to have these beautiful lit photos of the spindles to really see what you're looking at, you know?
Yeah, so for me, the boats that I carry, I have a couple different models. I have ones that are like this, that are kind of an entry level sort of drop spindle. Now, I say entry level, but they're not. Like, they're beautifully made. This one in particular is just really pretty. I don't know if you could see it.
I love it. Yeah, the grain of the
this one it's spalted sugar maple is the whorl, and then the shaft is birch. So the top four cylinders are all they're kind of like, they're beautifully made. And this is something that I'm really passionate about, is that I think that everybody, even beginners, even children, should have high quality tools when they're learning something. Like, there's just something really wonderful about being able to work with high quality tools. And so for these spindles, the reason why I've decided to go with Moose Hill Woodworks to carry them and to bring in this particular type is because this is a, you know, more on the affordable side of in terms of tools, but it's still very well made and really beautiful. So I carry those, and then I also carry what's called Turkish spindles. So this is one that has some yarn that I'm spinning on it. Turkish spindles are a different type of drop spindle, and they're one of my favorite things to spin on, just because when you're winding on, you can kind of see the yarns crisscrossing around these four arms. And then what you actually do when it's time to remove the yarn, your spindle disassembles like this.
Wow.
And so that yarn that's in the center there, those singles become their own kind of center pull ball.
Wow.
Which is just, it's really cool. For me, I find personally, I can fit more yarn on these than I can on a traditional drop spindle. Or on a drop spindle. Traditional is not really the right word to use there because it's spindles. Spindles have been around since most of human history. It's just, anyways. This is one that's mine.
Wow.
Spindles. It's another spalted sugar maple one. And it's just really beautiful. Yeah, these work the same way or in a very similar way as this kind of spindle does, but that you just, instead of winding on your yarn here, you're winding it around those arms. I particularly like spinning on these, so I've decided to bring them in so that everybody else can spin on them too.
Oh, I have to admit, I was perusing the Instagram one day and I saw a clip of you spinning with that Turkish spindle, or it might have been that one or another one.
It's this one.
And I was instantly sold. I was like, okay, as soon as like the wave of birthday yarn spending crashes and subsides, then I'm super interested. And it was so fascinating to see you do the actual spinning and then to be winding it around. And then when you pulled it out, I was like,
yeah, spinning is one of those things that's just, it's meditative in a different way than knitting is. And it's a different process. And I feel like that's why we're in the fiber arts, right? It's these hands-on tactile processes, and spinning is just a slightly different one. And it's easier than it looks. The only thing you need to spin yarn is some kind of fiber. This is a little tiny piece that I just ripped off of combed top. So the fiber that I dye is all commercially combed top, which means that everything is aligned nicely.
okay.
And it's best spun with worsted drafts. So if you're looking up like spinning basics, that's your keyword to find. Anyways, all you need to make this, which pulls apart super easily, right? There's nothing holding it together, into yarn is just a little bit of twist. So you can see I've just like twisted it once, and you can see already how much stronger that is. So that's all you need to make yarn. It's just fiber and some twist. And so the spindles do a really good job of that. I just bought a wheel. It's actually, this is my first week spinning on my wheel, which is exciting, but totally different. Like, it's, for me, what it comes down to is that spinning is about color. And I'm primarily interested in spinning the fiber that I'm dyeing, and the way that I'm dyeing the fiber is it's continuing into that exploration around what's color doing. And so when it comes to spinning, there are so many things you can do. Like, this particular braid is dyed in repeating sections, and so if you were just to spin this from one end to the other, you'd get these kind of stripes in your yarn. But then you could also take this apart, because you don't spin, like when you're spinning, you're already breaking up the fiber. It's not like yarn where you need your yarn to be in a consistent strand, right? You could take the colors that are in here and move them around however you want. You could decide that you only want to spin all of the yellow pieces and then take out all of the yellow pieces and spin them all, right? So just because it's dyed in sections like this, where it repeats, doesn't mean that you have to spin it the way that it's dyed. So that's one of the things. But then you can also, if you wanted to, take this whole braid, unbraid it, which I'm not going to do because it unbraids into this 4 meter long piece of fluff. But it's very fun. Anyways, you can take the whole thing, split it in half, and then split one of those halves in half again. And that's like a super, super basic fractal spin, right? That's like, if you look up fractal spinning, that'll tell you more about different ways to combine color by splitting your fiber in half and then splitting it in half again. And essentially what you get is sometimes the colors match up and sometimes they don't. So you get that, how like that, like what spin cycle looks like.
Yes.
Right? You get that spin cycle is designed to look like hand spun yarn. And so when you do kind of that fractal spin method where you're playing with the orientation of the colors, that's sort of one of the ways that you can create a really interesting yarn. But anyways, the short of it is there are lots of ways to experiment, both in terms of color application from the dyeing process onto the actual fiber, but also when it comes to what you do with the finished fiber to kind of play with how those colors match up when they're applied together, how they match up, like if you keep your braid like this or if you deconstruct it, all kinds of things. A really fantastic book about that is Yarnitecture by Gillian Moreno. That is the book to get if you want to know more about not just what color does, but how to make different yarns do really cool things when you're spinning. So that's like in terms of, if you know how to spin, I think that's the next book to get.
Yeah, so I'm just, figuring out some childcare options so to where I can put my children so that I can start this new hobby. And so just let me know your availability, Emily. Just let me know what days I can, bring them.
Well, I mean, for me personally, I've planned not to attend any in-person things at all for 2021, but like we could talk later. No, I know it's the kind of, we're in that weird space where, some shows are happening, some shows aren't.
Yes.
I've made the decision not to participate in any in-person shows for the rest of this year, which means unfortunately you won't see me in person, but I'm also working hard at creating other virtual spaces and virtual ways to kind of meet up with people on my own platform. So one of the things I'm actually working on is I've been hosting a series of seminars for my email subscribers. So they're free for my email subscribers. There's a link to sign up to it on my website to sign up to my email list. And then my goal is to do them once a month.
I think we really all appreciate having those opportunities as well, because you are right. Like many of us are not going to feel like instantly like jumping back into like huge crowds or mixing in right away. It's just not something that we're meant to do.
I haven't quite wrapped my head around how, like for me, my first year of doing yarn shows as a dyer, as a vendor would have been 2020. So like, I don't, I just haven't quite wrapped my head around how that works in our current reality.
Well, I look forward to connecting to a few of those opportunities that you're providing through your email list. I'm on the list. Dear viewers, I hope you hop on there as well, so you can get all the exclusives from Emily. So building a business. When we spoke earlier, you mentioned that it's always been a goal. It's kind of always been something that you were working towards. Can you give us a little insight into your experience as a small business owner?
Yeah, so for me personally, I really enjoy working for myself. So it's not the first time that I've done that. It's not the first time that I've worked with other small businesses. It's just a sphere that I've been very familiar with, and it's a process and a totally specific creative workflow. And what it comes down to is I really like the level of flexibility and control it gives me to be able to just do things. It's very daunting, but there's something really special about it. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in general. Like I spend, a few days a week dyeing yarn, and there is so much stuff that happens outside of that that's imperative to how this business works. And I really enjoy those aspects of it too. It's things like the marketing and the business development and the product design and the photography. Like there are so many things that go into what this is. And for me, part of it too is really finding joy in that process, even when like it's definitely work. Right? It's like something I feel like a lot of times people too, like for me, I am so grateful that I'm able to spend my days surrounded by color and surrounded by yarn and fiber. That is excellent, but it's absolutely work. And I put a lot of time into it. I put a lot of thought into how I do things. But in saying that, doing this all in a pandemic, like building up a small business from not quite scratch, but pretty close. I started right before things closed down. So building it up in the pandemic has been one of the most challenging things, I think, as a person who's who's worked for themselves before, who's been working with other small businesses before, this is different. And I don't think I would have invested as much time as I did had we not been confined to the spaces that we're in. Yeah, it's been really challenging, but it's been really gratifying. And I'm really thankful for the support that I've received from people who've been purchasing my yarn from my website, and I've had the stores that I work with. So I have the privilege of working with a whole bunch of stores across the country that carry my yarn. And I'm really grateful for everybody who participates in that, because it means that I get to spend my days surrounded by color, which is just great. That is definitely my favorite part.
Yes, and I think that, as soon as we hop on your website, we really see all the care that goes into the organization of things there. And I think that's something that you don't see everywhere. And it's something that I think maybe people aren't even aware of. But that hits you as soon as you enter that online space, and really like changes the way that you are even feeling while you're looking at yarn and everything to do with it. And I think it's really important that when we're out there, like on the internet, ordering our yarn, dealing with like maybe if you want to change something, or waiting for your order to come, that we all as consumers and patrons are a little bit understanding of the fact that this is one human being doing a lot of these things, and behind all of these elements that need to happen, the photography, the creation of however you press a button and then are able to buy something. Like, I don't know. So
there's
that's
a lot that goes into it.
Yep. I'm like, I want to say thank you very much for coming to this interview, for participating in my podcast. And I think it's really beautiful for us to be able to connect with someone like you that has this background in color theory, and now you're bringing it to us in this beautiful fiber.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm so happy to be here and to be sharing this with everybody, and it's exciting. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily, and hopefully we'll see you soon, and we'll see you at some of your online webinars.
Yeah, if you sign up, then you can be there.
All right, sounds awesome. Thank you so much.
Yarn, oh, I start to salivate. Yarn, my baby yarn, my second baby yarn, my third baby yarn, my fourth baby yarn, yeah.